how do we support students who are masking or displaying compliance behaviour, avoidance, and perfectionism?
Behaviors that come out when we're feeling anxious, and those behaviors tend to serve the purpose of neutralizing the perceived threat, or trying to find a sense of safety, and they are often in the short term pretty effective. They get the job done in the short term, and then they become quite maladaptive for the individual in the long term. So what I would say is that, in any of those anxious behaviors are ones we want to understand. How are they serving that individual? Because they're not being repeated because they're unhelpful. They're being repeated because they're serving some sort of purpose. We want to understand what that is, and then we want to make them more adaptive, and in doing that, it's about trying to find a different place of safety that we can appeal to. If a child is masking, it's because they are feeling, as a generalization, they're feeling like they have to do that to be socially safe, that they're having to do that to avoid certain consequences, punitive consequences, if they were to be themselves. So, it's a broad question, but it does require building that up, building that individual up, and making sure that they are able to feel safe without those behaviors. But the caveat is that the environment must also be safe, right? It's not enough for us to tell a child that they are safe without those behaviors if actually the environment is not safe or appropriate for them. So that's where the school part does come in.
There's
And I
a
think sorry. I think there's an interesting thing there, because when schools begin to implement Life Skills Go, the majority of our schools know a Timmy. Where's Timmy? He's up the tree throwing rocks at people. It's kind of those with really overt behavior. But what begins to happen over the first week or two is it's the ones that they had no idea about. So, Life Skills Go provides a safe, anonymous place for young people to begin to express how they're feeling. And within that, it's not going to the whole cohort. It's not, it's going to the teacher. But over time, what happens, particularly for masking students who've been regularly doing it, and I'll interject there, just interject myself for 1 second. There was a story in the early days when we were developing the platform with the schools, and this young person, the teacher went over to the young person and said, "Timmy, you're checking in angry every day, but you don't look angry." And he said, "I just wanted to know that you were looking." And the reason I say this is because the other side that we begin to see is those masking students, and just piggybacking off the back of what you just said, Corrie, that sense of being seen and that sense of safety. Dan Siegel talks a lot about, if we really see a young person, they begin to feel safe, secure, and they begin to self-soothe. What we hear continuously is that masking student, when they begin to feel trust, will begin to share how they are feeling. And that trust and that relationship begins. And that's, again, it's very broad brushstrokes here, but we just see it time and time and time again.